Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to do the mid-year book freakout tag, which is one of my favorites to do every year. I do it every summer. I think I've done it for the past 2 or 3 years, and it's just a really great way to kind of check in the middle of the year, see how your reading is going, see what you need to concentrate on, answer some difficult questions, and I just love doing it every year. All right, so question number 1 is like the hardest question on the entire list because it's what's your favorite book so far in 2019. And I really had to narrow this down because I have a few favorites. I've read some really good books this year, you guys. I've just been a lot of, 4 and 5 stars. A couple that I'm kind of considering some all-time favorites. And yeah, so it was hard. I did kind of narrow it down to 1. There's still a couple that, could even potentially by the end of the year push its way up, but we'll see. But so far right now, I'm going to pick Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This is the first book in the Nevermore series. And I picked this one because this is a completely made up world. This is very reminiscent of Harry Potter, so a completely different world, follows kids who are trying to get into this society and they have to go through all these trials in order to get there. Our main character just doesn't know that half of the things exist that are actually existing. She doesn't know that she has some special powers. And it's so good. Tons of magic and just very whimsical, and I adored every single page in this book, and it gave me the feelings that I felt when I was reading Harry Potter for the first time. Those are the feelings it gave me. It's not Harry Potter, it's different enough, but there are definitely some scenes that I read that, just I could tell were inspired by Harry Potter, which I think is just going to be the norm for so many, books that are centered for kids that have magic in them. They're going to have some sort of, influence from Harry Potter, definitely. That's kind of a given, but I loved it so much. And there's a couple other books that I were contenders, but I think mainly for the reason that the feelings it gave me while I was reading it and the completely made up world just kind of pushed it over the edge for me. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year. And I haven't read that many sequels, but we're going to keep on going with Nevermore because I read Wondersmith, which is book number 2 in the series, and I love this one just as much. And just, again, more magic, more details into the world, which was very interesting, more history into the world, which was very interesting, and I loved it. So both Nevermore and Wondersmith were 5-star reads for me, and I cannot wait for the next one, which I have to wait till March. But yeah, so best sequel, I would say. I haven't read that many, but of the ones I've read, this one for sure. Number 3, what's a new release that you haven't read yet? So a book that came out this year that is already out that you haven't read yet. And I would probably say Bane by Claire Legrand. This is book number 2 in her Furyborn series, or after Furyborn. And I read Furyborn last year and loved it. It was a big surprise on how much I loved that book. And I got Bane as well. I did get it through NetGalley, so I don't have a physical copy of it, but I could definitely see this as a series I would want to own on my shelf. So I'm trying to think about if I want to, wait for paperback releases, because I do have the first one in ARC form and it's a paperback. So I might wait until this one comes out in paperback and see if it's like the same size or just get hardcovers and all of them. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I haven't read Bane, and it's kind of killing me that I haven't because I just loved Furyborn so much, and I know this is a trilogy that is going to be up there in some of my favorites. Question number 4 is, what is your most anticipated release still to come out in the second half of the year? And I just did a video on all of my most anticipated releases for the last part of 2019, so I'll leave that link down below if you guys want to see that. But I think of all of those, my most anticipated is going to be The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. And this is a book I have been waiting so long for because I loved The Night Circus and I really wanted to read more from her. And I read The Night Circus so long ago, and she's finally coming out with another book, and it's going to be about a magical library. And if there are any more buzzwords possible in that sentence, a book by Erin Morgenstern featuring a magical library. It's like she knows me. Question number 5 is, what is your biggest disappointment of the year so far? And for this one, I'm going to say Again But Better by Christine Riccio. I DNF'd that book pretty early on. It was not the book for me, definitely. I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't like some of the situations that she put them in, and just their personalities drove me nuts, and I couldn't do it. I was cringing through a lot of it. So I DNF'd it, I think, at 25%. And that was definitely my biggest disappointment. Question number 6 is, what's your biggest surprise? And I have 2 for this one. I couldn't pick which one, but the first one is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I loved that book, and I was expecting to probably enjoy it because a lot of people really love it. But man, I was kind of obsessed with it, and I read through it really quickly. I couldn't put it down. It was so great. It was about 2 boys, or 2 college, well, boys, men, I guess you could say. They're in college, and they figure out a way to make themselves superhumans, I guess you could say. They have supernatural powers, and they figured out a way that they could do that for themselves, but they end up becoming supervillains instead. And you just see this battle between them, and it's so good. I loved it. I loved it so much. I can't wait to read the next one. And then the second one is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And I just was so surprised by how much I loved that book. And this is one that a lot of people are raving about as well. Every time they read it, they just absolutely love it. And now I understand why. And this is a retelling of the Iliad, where it features Achilles and Patroclus. And the twist in this one is that they have a male-male romance between them. And I loved every word of this book. It was so brutal, and just their love story was so beautiful. And oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved it so much. It's a hard read because it does focus a lot on, war and stuff and all that. And it's, violent, but oh my gosh, it was so good. And it really took me by surprise. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. Question number 7 is a favorite author. So either a debut author of this year or a new to you author, just an author you haven't read yet. Again, I have 2 answers because I could not choose between the 2. I love them both so much. First one is Christina Lauren. Now, this is a writing duo. This is 2 best friends who write together. And I read 2 of their books this year. So I have read Love and Other Words and The Unhoneymooners. These 2 I have read this year, and both 5 stars. Love them both so much. Loved them. And I have 2 other physical books on my shelves. I have Roomies, and I have Joss and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. So these 2 I haven't read yet, but I'm so excited to now. And I'm definitely going to be pre-ordering their new book that comes out in October. And I want to read all of their books now. All of them. I need to. I'm going to slowly start collecting them when I can find them, for good deals and prices or whatever. But definitely Christina Lauren. I just feel like these are going to be candy books for me. I'm just going to devour them. And the other one is Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I have read Daisy Jones and the Six and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo this year. Absolutely loved both of these. The only other one that I own by her right now is One True Loves, which I would like to read very soon because of her backlist. This is definitely the one that has the premise that I'm most interested in, but I want to slowly start collecting her backlist as well, because I have a feeling she's going to end up being a favorite author for me. And yeah, so definitely Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am all in on her. Question number 8 is your newest fictional crush. I don't get crushes very often, but I do have one for this, and that is Elliot from Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. Elliot, I was just absolutely in love with him. I thought he was so perfectly flawed. He wasn't perfect, but he definitely was just, I loved him. Just Elliot was everything. And question number 9 is newest favorite character. And I had a hard time with this one. I really did. I've met a lot of really great characters this year, but one that really stood out to me that made me laugh out loud quite a bit, and that's from Our Rishon, The End of Time by Roshani Chachki. And I loved Boo. Boo was a bird, and he hasn't always been a bird. I'll just put it that way. I don't want to ruin anything, but he has an identity. He wasn't always a bird, So he really thinks he's bigger than he actually is. He made me laugh so much. So definitely Boo from Howard Shaw. I loved him. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry. And you guys know me, I have a heart of ice. I don't cry very often in books. So no books have made me cry this year yet. So we'll see if that holds true till the end of the year, but I haven't cried in a book yet. But I will go with a book that made me very, very emotional and gave me a lot of feelings. And we're going to pick this one up again, Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. And I just remember feeling so many different emotions in this book and feeling them so strongly and just caring about these characters so much. And when I finished this book, I wanted to just start from the beginning and read it over again because I was sad that it was over. I was sad that these characters were done. And I was just like, no, but there's so much more, right? There's so much more. And I definitely understood, I've heard of people, finishing a book and then starting it over right again. And at first I was like, why would you do that? You just read it. But I get it now because I wanted to do that with this one. I went for other books, but I could definitely see myself rereading this. I wanted to immediately just because I didn't want to be away from these characters. So definitely the most emotional book I've read. Question 11 is a book that made you happy. And for this one, I'm going to go with I Can't Make This Up by Kevin Hart. And I laughed my way through this one for sure because it's Kevin Hart and I love him. I love his comedy and it's very prevalent throughout this book. I definitely recommend the audiobook. It is one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. I would listen to it again. And he made me laugh and he made a lot of sense. And I loved how he turned his experiences into life lessons. And it was so good. It made me very, very happy. Question number 12 is what is the most beautiful book you've acquired this year? And for me, that is The Priory of the Orange Tree. This was sent to me by a very lovely subscriber. And I was in shock when I opened the box and this showed up because this book is stunning and it's also textured. So you can feel the dragon scales on here. And it's so just the blue and the orange. It's so beautiful. And even the spine is beautiful. And even the back is beautiful. And there's just, it's so gorgeous and it's the biggest thing ever. And I'm so intimidated to read it, but I really want to. At some point I will. It's just this is an over 800 page book. It's incredibly large. It is a standalone fantasy. So there is that. But yeah, but it's so beautiful. Like I can't stop staring at it on my shelves. And question number 13 is what do you need to read by the end of the year? All of them, all of the books I need to read by the end of the year. But if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to say God's Grave by Jay Kristoff. This is book number 2 in his Nevernight series. I loved Nevernight so much. And I want to read God's Grave because Dark Dawn, which is the 3rd book in the trilogy, comes out in September. And I want to read this. I've already pre-ordered Dark Dawn, so it's going to be coming to me. And I would love to be able to pick that up as soon as it is in my hands and read it and finish out the trilogy along with everyone else who's doing it as well. I don't want to be late on this train. And so I would like to read this in the next month or 2 so that I can be ready for Dark Dawn in September for sure. So this is going to be like probably number 1 on my list to read. All right, guys, that is it. That is the mid-year book freakout tag. If you guys want to do this one, please do. And if you do, let me know so I can watch yours because I love watching these. I've seen a couple people do them already. And every time they start popping up, I get so excited about it. It's just a really great, kind of check in. How's your reading? Reflect on what you've been reading so far type thing. And I love it. So that is my 2019 edition. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know what some of your answers would be. If you don't do videos, let me know what some of your answers would be down below. And I will talk to you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.